Welcome to my series, Unveiling the Secrets of Executive Presence. As a certified image professional and in my business style for life, I have the good fortune to work with some of Australia's most influential women who are committed to making a difference in the world and are also not afraid to showcase their strength and courage with a powerful visual brand. These women appreciate that an authentic image makes them even more credible, confident, and impressive than they are on paper. But as an ambitious woman, the journey to the C-suite can often be filled with insecurity, fear, judgment, and second-guessing all around whether your gravitas is going to be enough. Executive presence is one of the most important skills for success in business, but it's also one of the most least understood, which is why I decided to start the series. Unveiling the Secrets of Executive Presence provides insights into how to develop and use executive presence as a powerful tool for career advancement through interviews with the most accomplished senior executive women in Australia. These women are highly respected leaders in their fields who concur that executive presence is a skill that should be learned and mastered to make a very real difference, and they share how to use it to achieve success both personally and professionally, and what executive presence has meant for them. Today I have the pleasure of talking to Michelle Sales. Michelle is a speaker, coach, trainer, and author, and is passionate about helping people tap into their true potential in leadership and in life. Michelle is loved by her clients and colleagues for how she works with people in a very human way, bringing authenticity and warmth to much as her hard-hitting ability to hold people to account. She has helped thousands of leaders and their teams learn to show up as the best version of themselves, to build confidence and maximize their leadership and performance. With a love of learning to begin with, Michelle constantly seeks to improve her own knowledge, capability, and edge in order to add value to her clients. She is currently studying positive psychology and is a past graduate of Harvard Kennedy School, executive education in the art and practice of leadership development, as well as Women and Power, Leadership in a New World. Michelle, wonderful to have the opportunity to have a chat to you this morning.
So good to be here, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I know you're doing an awful lot in the area of leadership, and particularly with women. But over the course of your career, which you were just telling me before that you've been in business now for 10 years, is that right?
Yeah, in my 11th year. Corporate background, 11-year running this business.
Which is amazing. So can you tell me a time when you first realised the importance of executive presence in your career?
A time. I think, there are specific moments, but also for me, I feel like it was a real build. Specifically in my corporate career, the moment I went from a general manager to an executive general manager, so, the building of your executive career and having that sense of you've got a new peer group, you've got really different people around you that are brilliant in what they do, having a significant impact, and that doesn't come by chance. And I think there's a whole lot of people that I see every day that are on autopilot and not being deliberate and thinking about how am I showing up, how am I planning for these meetings, what sort of impact do I want to have, how am I building the confidence from the inside, but also thinking about how I'm showing up on the outside, all of your world, Julie. And so I think that moment for me in the transition from general management to executive roles and having a whole different and having to show up at very senior board executive forums, you have to be deliberate. That was my realization. This presence doesn't just happen. It's really a set of behaviors and things that you learn and you need to be deliberate about to make sure that you do have a presence that's authentic to you and that you are landing with other people with the right impact.
I love the word you've used, be deliberate, because, and also you talked about people just being on autopilot, just going through the motions without potentially any real thought behind, well, who am I meeting? You know, what's it all about? What's the outcome that I want to see? How should I be showing up?
Mm,
'Cause I know,
yeah.
yeah.
I used to get a lot of requests for, used to as in when I was in those senior roles, get a lot of requests from other women across the business to mentor them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very common that, and I would ask them, what sort of feedback have you had? How are you thinking about your leadership? What's working well? What's not working so well? Where do you see your opportunities and challenges? And it was so common for women to say, I've had this feedback that I need to work on my presence, or I don't have the right level of executive or leadership presence. And I'd say, well, what does that mean to you? How are you thinking about that? And they'd say, I've got no idea. I don't know what it means. I don't know. I've just been told this, but I have been given no other detail. And that's so common that people get feedback. You don't have a good, or you don't have the right level of executive presence to go into those roles. But even the people giving feedback don't really know what that means.
I hear you. I hear you, absolutely. And there's a lot of written content out there too about you need to have executive presence, and it talks about a whole lot of things about communication skills and interpersonal skills. Never talks about appearance, never talks about
Mm,
how you show up. And so there is no definitive explanation of what executive presence is. And it means different things to different people. But at the end of the day, I think what you're saying is, you know, you really need to take a holistic approach and look at, well, what is the outcome that I want? And am I getting the results that I want the way I'm doing it now? People tell me, no, I need more of something. So, what is the something? And so,
mm.
how do people go to actually try and research that and find that missing link?
I think a really good place to start is with some good feedback.
Mm,
So if you've got people around you, senior people is helpful who have kind of walked in the shoes ahead of you,
mm,
that you trust, that will give you honest feedback. Honest, practical feedback is helpful. So I think feedback, because, you know, we can think we have a level of presence, but in this world of whether it's, we're talking about presence or our leadership brand, which is, you know, all in that same world, it's not what we necessarily think about ourselves, it's how we land with others. So I can think that I've got a great level of presence, but I might be in a meeting or in meetings, or, you know, having a conversation with you, and I come across as distracted, and or I haven't thought enough about my contribution to the conversation or to the meeting. Um, you know, there could be loads of other things going on. It's how you're landing that is the signal of what your presence is.
mm. That's a really good explanation. It's, I guess, from my perspective, it's, well, think about how you want to be received. You know,
Yeah,
what's the perception you want other
yeah,
people to have of you? And we can, it's, you know, there's a lot you can do to actually present in a way which is going to at least give them that initial first impression of, oh, okay, this is a good start. And
mm,
it's providing you've got everything that follows on after that.
mm.
It's content, you know, confidence, everything else that you.
Absolutely. I mean, we're assuming substance, aren't we? Here, we're
We assume
assuming.
substance, exactly. If you've got to that point and you're in that meeting, we assume that you've got the substance to follow on with, and it's how you deliver then. It's the confidence that you have within yourself, and yeah, how you land.
Mm,
It's also in that it's the confidence, isn't it? When you go into that situation, that I've done everything I can.
mm, mm. That prep's really important. I wrote a book on confidence in 2018, 2017, 18. I've written a book on leadership confidence specifically. And I absolutely believe that there's an internal and an external element to that, as I said earlier. If we can if we can understand who we are at our best, what are we great at? What are our strengths? What gives us energy? What do we value? You know, what makes us stand out? What are we here to do in our leadership work? And we're really centered around that. So there's a whole lot of internal work that helps to give us self-confidence.
Mm.
And that strength is also around, you know, when you wake up in the morning, what do you do for yourself that helps you to feel strong and grounded? So, you know, that might be exercise in the morning, it might be breathing, meditation, whatever it is. All that work that we do for ourselves ensures that when we walk in the door or turn on the Zoom, we've got at least half a chance. We're halfway there in terms of how we feel about ourselves and the confidence. And then the other key thing I think is there's a lot of people that go back to back to back in meetings, and I'm talking leaders. And we need to create some space and time to plan for what we want our voice to be, what impact we want to have, because our voice matters more in meetings than we generally think. So we need to create some time and get a little bit out of the doing to think about, how do we want to be? What voice do we want to have? What impact do we want to have? What questions do we have that are going to actually make a real impact? And so I think that absolutely goes to presence as well, because if we're distracted and we run into a meeting, we're 10 minutes late and we're still processing the last meeting, and, you know, and we haven't, even if we are strong and self-confident, but we're distracted and we're all over the place, it's still not going to be great for our presence.
No, absolutely not. It's distracting for everyone else then, because they can tell that you're actually not fully present. Interesting, you know, just going back to what we're talking about being present in the moment. And I think, yes, the whole planning thing has a lot to do with that. You know, what am I doing for the day? How many meetings have I got? Who am I meeting through the day? What's happening in between? What am I going to wear today so that I am comfortable and I'm not going to be worrying about too hot, or things don't, you know, feel comfortable on my skin, or, you know, doesn't look good when I look in the, all of those sorts of things, as well as what content do I need to have prepared? What are the questions I need to ask? What are the outcomes that I want to achieve? You know, who do I need to target in the meeting? All of those sorts of
We
things.
don't need to sit in the meeting, because, you know, if you run in late and you end up right up the back, if it's a big meeting, being able to use your voice and have an impact and be heard is a whole lot different. So I couldn't agree more with all of what you've just said. I'll often ask groups, when I have this conversation with groups of female leaders, and it's absolutely not, this goes across all genders, but when I have this conversation with female leaders, I'll say, what gives you confidence? When you think about what you need to do for yourself, what gives you confidence? And they're just as likely to say, you know, my red lipstick, or my pink jacket, or my glasses, or something that I do for myself in terms of my appearance, as well as the deeper stuff. So I think it absolutely goes both ways.
Yeah, we have to use all of the strategies that we have at our fingertips to, you know, give us that presence. So on that point, what specific strategies do you use to amplify your own executive presence, Michelle?
I make sure that I'm really clear on what I'm great at and what gives me energy. And so I make sure I build my week in a way that, and I'm lucky because I run my own business, but I also do a lot to make sure that I'm available and fit within my clients' schedules. But I'm really conscious of what I do in my week, so that I can manage my energy, that I can do the right things for myself in terms of looking after myself, looking after my energy. I'm clear on what I'm great at. So I've got good boundaries and I know what to say yes and no to. Now, I've had to learn that over many years. I've, you know, learned that I've said yes to things.
We want to do everything, right? We want to please everyone.
Absolutely. And we're not at our best. Yeah. So I know what being at my best looks like, and I really try my best to maintain that. When I moved from my corporate world into running my own business, I did have someone come and look at my wardrobe for me, because I was really clear on the fact that I didn't want to be a banker. I didn't want to go in with pinstripe suits into clients. And I wanted to take that chance to really think about, in the world of working with great leaders and helping them be the best, what does that mean from my own brand perspective? So, you know, I am thoughtful about my day and my week and I travel a lot. So I'm thoughtful ahead of time. What do I need to pack? What space do I need to be in? Who am I seeing? How am I looking after myself that week? All of those things that give me the best chance of being my best self.
That's great. And that's an investment you made in yourself because of the transition you were making from corporate into your own business. And you're right, being in a consulting role is different to being in the corporate world. People look at you differently, and you've got to project a different persona and a different level of confidence and authority when you're in your own business than when you're in the corporate world, don't you think?
Well, I absolutely. I also saw that for me as completely freeing, because for me, I thought, well, I can create anything I want now.
That's right.
I can create what is really me, and I love colour. You know, this is one of your jackets. Working with you was just a brilliant injection of really being deliberate about how I wanted to show up externally. And I love colour. So if you look at my wardrobe now, it's just, you know, full of colour, and, you know, for me, that brightens my day.
And that's so important, because it's one of the things that a lot of women disregard or ignore, the fact that you can use colour subliminally in meetings, and because it has incredible psychological impacts on people, but it also impacts how you feel on any one day. So, you know, and how you feel then radiates onto the other person and how they view you. And they think, oh, if you're feeling really positive and confident and strong because you're wearing the right colours, and, you know, that makes you feel really good, then it only goes to impact the people you're meeting throughout the whole day.
What I've learned a lot over the last 11 years is the energy, and there's a whole lot of scientific proof, neuroscience around this for leadership, is the energy that we bring to a meeting room, to the workplace, to anywhere, but we're talking about this in a leadership context. The energy we bring is so contagious. It's almost as contagious as catching a cold. So if what you were just saying is, if we walk into a room, or, you know, we're running one of our meetings and we are not feeling our best, that's going to be contagious. If we're feeling stressed and tired and frustrated and demanding, then that's going to be contagious. If we're feeling strong and confident and prepared and connected and all of those things, we're going to connect everybody with that vibe and that energy.
Absolutely. So different to someone, as you said, walking in who's feeling really negative, uncomfortable, you know, why am I here? Started off on the wrong foot, got out of bed the wrong side, all those sort of things. Yeah, people it affects the whole vibe. So, okay, so let's just move on. There's a lot of misconception about executive presence. So in your opinion, how can individuals work to overcome them? You know, you mentioned before about, you know, sometimes people get told that you need to improve your executive presence. Well, what the hell does that mean? What am I supposed to be doing? And so there's certain views out there, but there's a lot of misconceptions about what that is. So what's your advice to an emerging female leader that's coming through, that's been told that she needs to do some work on her executive presence? And what would be the misconceptions around that whole topic from your perspective?
I think the misconception is there's one view of executive presence, and you have to look like this and be like this to have a good presence, have to have a good leadership or an executive presence. And I think that just sets us up for failure, because then we're trying to be something that we're not. So the first thing I always say is know yourself. Who are you? You know, what are you great at? What are you about? Because your presence should be grounded in that authenticity. I'm a pretty practical person, so, you know, presence actually isn't an innate thing. It's actually just a set of behaviors that we can work on for ourselves. So I was mentioning before feedback, get some feedback so that you understand how you're being received. In your words, how you're being received. Think about your language that you use. You know, there's a lot of sorries out there. Sorry, can I just ask a question? This might not be relevant, but, you know, all of the language that we use has an impact on our presence. Our body language is really important. The preparation we were just talking about for meetings. Because if you think about all those practical things, what a difference they make. You know, we're getting good feedback. We've got people around us that we know are supporting of us. We've got having a couple of good role models and mentors is really important. So when we know we've got people in our corner, we've got some good feedback, so we know some practical things for us specifically that can help. We are being aware of our body language, our language. We've prepared for the meeting, including waking up in the morning, doing what, you know, for me, it was putting some color on and thinking about the conversation we're about to have, versus rolling in. We're back to back. I've just come from another meeting. I've rolled out of bed this morning. You know, it's a massive difference. So that set of behaviors that we do for ourselves makes all the difference when it comes to our presence.
I think it's all about sort of taking positive action, isn't it? And you mentioned, you know, having good role models and, you know, having good mentors, which I'm a big believer in. But do you think there's enough good female role models out there for women to follow?
I think there are, but I think the challenge is, and I've certainly faced this challenge for myself, is we look for the whole package, and there's not a lot of whole packages out there, I would say. And so my own learning and the advice I give to others now is, what are you wanting to work on for yourself, and look for some role models that do that well. So it might be that you're looking to improve your level of influence. So if you're working perhaps in a male-dominated environment, how you're using your voice. Look for women that are really good at that. And that was my experience when I stepped up into that executive general manager role for the first time. I sought out a female colleague who was excellent at that. And she gave me some advice around how I structure my communication when I'm injecting into a meeting. Now, she wasn't the be-all and end-all role model for me. She wasn't, but she was really good at that. So when you're looking for role models, my advice would be break it down. You know, there might be someone with brilliant style, then ask them, use them as a role model, you know, for style. Definitely employ you. And so, but break it down, the role modeling, into the aspects that you're wanting to work on, and then seek out multiple role models or mentors or people that can give you inspiration.
That's a really good point. But even on the point of style, Michelle, you know, you've mentioned authenticity a lot. You know, one style for one person is not necessarily style for the next person, and leads on into the next question, actually, because women since COVID have radically changed their values, their understandings of things, their, you know, appreciation of things, and it had a great impact on women, positive and negative. And you know, I know there was, you know, a lot of fear and uncertainty and everything for women as to, well, how am I supposed to be showing up now in this virtual world? I mean, it really did have a profound impact. So, but coming now out of that into a more hybrid phase, back to face, people are still asking, well, how am I supposed to be doing this now? What is my method of operation? What should I wear? How should, and now we have also the added thing of diversity and inclusion, so that everyone's trying to be politically correct all the time, and what should I do and what should I not do, and we've got gender neutral bathrooms everywhere, and I'm noticing in airports. It's just, I'm thinking, this is a really crazy time we're going through. So what's the biggest shift that you've experienced in how women are doing it now versus pre-COVID?
I think for me, it's this sense of deliberateness again.
Mm.
And it's not just about what we're wearing. It goes to the heart of our leadership, because we had to lead in a certain way through those times. And, you and I are both in Victoria during that period of time, which was pretty tough.
Mm.
And so, and pretty much 100% online for a very, very long time. And so how we led, how we were enabled to, maximize connection and performance and business outcomes was a certain way. We had to change to be able to be effective. And online, I think, I certainly felt like we just thought differently about then, the clothes that we put on, whether we wore makeup or not, all of those things. There was just so much.
Mm.
That my sense now is that if we haven't already, we have to draw a line in the sand and say we're now in another time. And so what does that mean for how we're leading, how we're showing up? And there is, for me and for lots of my colleagues and clients, there's still a decent amount of time that we spend online.
Mm.
And so, how do you want to be online? How do you want to be when you go into the office? Don't just be on autopilot. Actually be deliberate about that again.
Mm.
And that goes to how we're showing up in terms of our dress. It also goes to how we're leading in terms of, there was quite a lot more command and control leadership during that time, because we just needed to get stuff done. We had crisis committees at the top levels of organisations. Now, we shouldn't be leading like that in the same way now. It's just an opportunity to continue to evolve our leadership, and that all goes to, the internal and the external elements that we spoke about.
Mm. So you're saying women have shifted in terms of their approach to these things, and okay, let's take dress as an example, how they're actually dressing for meetings now, if they're showing up. Because I've got a few clients in Queensland, and whilst they're still wanting to dress fairly professionally, there is this element of wanting to be comfortable and dressing down, and how do I bring this down to this level, because it's a different type of meeting. But then I have other women that say, oh my goodness, it's just gone to the extreme, and they're showing up as though they're going out to a barbecue on the weekend. So it's just, I think there's a lot of confusion out there. What are you seeing?
Well, I moved to Queensland in 22, so we're just coming up to 2 years. I still am confused about dress. And, for me, I also try to get the sense of my clients. So I've got, different clients, different dress codes, different standards. But at the end of the day, I want to be me, so that's probably more important. So I think definitely there's some things that have changed and might never change back. Shoes, for example. Not a lot of people wear high heel shoes anymore. I think that level of comfort has been created, and I don't know that that's going to turn around. My clients that I'm seeing, whether it's Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, or online, I think in the main have bounced forward to a level of, you might have jackets, but it might be a more casual dress that's under there. So I think that there is more flexibility in all parts of how we're leading and showing up. That includes what we're wearing. But I don't know that we've landed. There's still a lot of confusion.
There is still a lot of confusion. I agree with you. And it's just interesting sitting back and watching it and seeing how women are doing it now. Some are still trying to do it the way it was before, and others are trying to, sort of morph into something that's a little bit different and are struggling with that. And then you have, others who are going through complete career transitions because they've just decided that they didn't want to do what they did anymore, and they're trying to find something new, and that's a whole new space that they're going into. So
there's a lot of that, and because I travel a lot,
Mm.
you've got to be prepared for. You've got to really think about what are all the forums I'm going to be in. Am I speaking on stage versus coaching one-on-one versus working with executive teams? And all of that requires different levels of energy, thinking about how I prepare, thinking about what I wear. But everyone should be doing that, no matter what that's just me running my own business. But if you're in the corporate world, you should be thinking about, am I traveling? What do I need? What sort of clothes do I need to travel? What meetings am I going to be in? Like all of that preparation.
Oh, look, absolutely. It's so important. It's part of the work I do actually in with my clients when, they send me their agendas. So I have the opportunity to be able to coordinate their outfits before they go. I had one client just recently, she was going to London and Brussels and back inside of a week, high level meeting. So what do I wear? And it's going to be cold. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then she ended up being, stranded in Singapore for a day with delays because the flight was late leaving Melbourne. And so,
and then it was hot.
It's just so it's just managing all of those uncertainties in business, but being prepared. And I think if you've got all the right tools in place, whether it be for your content, your substance that you want to deliver, what you're wearing, your accessories, your luggage, and everything else that you need to be able to help you deliver what you want to deliver, then that's puts you on at least at the front foot. I think to do that.
Absolutely.
And, surely executive presence, I know, like if you look back at all the things that have been written about it, for quite some time ago, there's been this idea of what executive presence is all about. And it has evolved quite a lot, hasn't it? As you said before, it's now not just about one thing. There's all of these other things that are included in that whole phrase, executive presence. But it's about singling out the things you feel you're not competent enough at to be able to get that wholehearted appreciation, I suppose.
Absolutely. I'm a pretty practical person. When I wrote that, I'll just give a little plug to my book, but when I wrote that, The Power of Real Confidence, I did a whole lot of research and had been for many years, but interviewed lots of really senior clients. And I said, what would be most helpful for you when you think about, your leadership confidence, your impact, your influence, all of those things? And inevitably people said, I want a practical how-to guide. I want to get a sense when I'm not feeling at my best. What are the practical steps I can do? I can go through and work on to actually rebuild, whether that's presence or confidence. And so that's, if you do want some practical steps, I've got a chapter on presence in there, then grab a copy of that book and it'll help you make progress.
That's great. Where can people get a copy of that book, Michelle?
You can either reach out to me through my website, michellesales.com.au. We can autograph some books for you. We often do that for teams, or through anywhere you buy books, Amazon, Booktopia, any of the online forums.
Yeah, a great resource. We can never have enough. Is it on Audible?
It's not on Audible. No, I didn't do Audible.
That might be your next book.
It could be. I'm looking for something big.
I know, I was just gonna ask you, so where do you see all this, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? What will you be doing in 5 years from
Oh, so we were having this conversation just before about the fact that the last few years, we've been, really building some great leadership pieces. My absolute desire is to always be at the forefront of this work on leadership so that I can offer the best value, cutting edge work to our clients. So growth for me and for us as a business is really important. And so the last year or so, we've been able to really leverage that work. And so it's been about delivering and doing a lot of work of the work that we've built. And but I still love to do big new things. So I'm listening to a book by Lovie Jones, Luvvie Jones, listening to it on Audible, called The Fear Fighter Manual. And I was listening to it yesterday, and I just had this massive kind of light bulb moment. I need to dream big over the next 5 years. I want the next 5 years to be big, and I want to dream bigger than what I'm dreaming at the moment. So I don't know I watch this space. I don't know what the plan will be, but I want it to be big.
That sounds amazing. So, well, look, keep doing what you're doing. I know you do amazing work for women in leadership and also emerging women leaders as well. And all of what we've discussed today is so very relevant. And hopefully, anyone who's listening back to this, you'll get in touch with Michelle and see how she can help you move forward in this crazy world that we're in at the moment. So,
Thank you, Julie. Thanks. It's great talking to you today.
yeah, it's great to catch up with you. Queensland is agreeing with you, obviously.
Thank you. I love it.